I've heard those kinds of comments or comparisons between CDRH and CEDAR before, and the processes at CEDAR always seem very regimented and in a way much simpler than the device center's processes. Is there a good reason for that, and does that make it more difficult to bring over the kinds of information that companies would need to have to improve the level of their submissions?
Well, I mean, I think much like the regulations recognize important differences between drugs and devices, so have the processes that have developed over time. And you know, many the medical device venture community and the manufacturers is just a different beast than the pharmaceutical companies. And so there are very small medical device companies that submit applications to us. And so I think there had been historically a concern that if the bar were too high to even get in the door, then we truly would be stifling some of those important innovative products.
Ralph, did you have something on that?
Yeah, I think there are fundamental structural differences between the industries. You know, drugs have systemic effects. You know, if I'm putting in an artificial hip, I really don't worry about the blood-brain barrier in that. You also have the whole different pattern of innovation and iterative innovation. You know, you don't really tweak a pill. Well, you may make a catheter a little bit longer, a little bit thinner, a little bit whatever, and that's where a lot of the benefit comes from. So I'm firmly of the view that, you know, you cannot simply wholesale take the device system and drop it on drugs, or take drugs and drop it on device. There are huge differences technically, scientifically, and process-wise.
We've watched a lot of controversy develop over the 510K issue in the last year or so, and I'll move on to another section of questions. And in some ways, the last question sums up the other two, and that is the regulatory science in this area strong enough to withstand political influences from varied quarters? It seems we're being pushed this way and that, depending on the input that we're getting. Can we create a good process that responds to complaints and yet doesn't kowtow to a particular interest? Ralph, maybe you have some thoughts.
I do, and again, I think Bill and I may disagree on this. I'm not as concerned about quote-unquote political influence. Politics is simply a pejorative term for democracy. And as policy changes, new administrations, reflecting public opinion to make things, you know, quote-unquote looser, tougher, whatever, I don't see a major problem with that, as long as it's transparent, as long as it's upfront, as long as it's appropriate. So if the body politic says we need devices faster or slower, that to me is just democracy in action, and I have no problem with it, done appropriately.
Bill, your thoughts?
I'd like to believe that, you know, the goal on the horizon that we're trying to reach is consistent performance of the civil servants at the FDA who are immune to politics. You know, I don't know. You know, I don't know that we're there right now, but certainly I think that's what we're striving for.
Yeah. The CE process has managed to cover across multiple geographies, multiple political transitions, and has remained relatively stable throughout the whole time. And it is a lot easier to explain and figure out and execute in the process for companies. And you know, I'd love to imagine that we could approach that system. It's a lot simpler and less expensive. And you know, from all I can tell, it works pretty well.
Well, we'll go on to the last question here, and we have just a couple minutes. So looking forward, FDA is going to release its plan for early changes to the 510K process. We thought those might have come out before the end of the year, but we do expect them soon. Later in the middle of the year, we expect the Institute of Medicine to release its report on the 510K process. And so I'll ask each of you to look down that path and say, what do you think is going to materialize out of those? And Bill, you may have information about FDA's plans, so we'll start again with you.
Well, we do intend to release information soon. We had hoped to get it out in 2010, but it should be soon. The IOM process is going to play out this summer. I think there'll need to be an opportunity both for FDA to consider the recommendations and give the public a chance to comment as well. So I think our concern had been that if we waited for the IOM process to play out, nothing would happen for, until 2012, and we didn't think that that was appropriate, that the community has provided a lot of input. They're waiting to hear. We need to turn the page and move on. We've had a lot of time to talk about these things. So I'm optimistic. I think we've heard a lot of we heard up here, there's a lot of similarities in our viewpoints about, there's a lot of common ground. And I think our goal is to stand on that common ground and move forward.
Judge?
Yeah, I can't predict the future, but I do have some worries and concerns. I've had an opportunity to present to the IOM committee and meet them, and they're a very intelligent, capable group, but there is not a tremendous amount of industry experience amongst the group, and I worry just a little bit, at least with some of the early interactions over the early part of last year. It seemed that they were really starting from scratch in a lot of areas with respect to the 510K, PMA process, the different aspects of them, of those processes, and I just I'm a little they've had some time, which is good. They also are very busy people. This isn't the only thing they're doing. So I hope that the recommendations that they come forward with are practical and reasonable, and are balanced. I'm not privy to exactly how this all works and what instructions specifically or interactions they've had with various officials and so on. But I certainly am a little worried about a group that really has not been either on the FDA side or the industry side particularly involved, having a very significant impact on the direction that we're going to take. So I hope that we do have an opportunity for public comment from both industry as well as FDA, and we can listen to the perspective, but I hope that we aren't bound to follow all of those recommendations.
Jan, you indicated that you and Jack are going to try to present some of your findings to the Institute of Medicine's committee. What does the timing look like for that for you?
Very tight, actually, because the IOM is having their last meeting as a group at the end of January, and so we hope that there's enough input from everyone who's taking the survey at midday, maybe in 10 days or so, available, that we can deliver first data to the IOM and make it public. But beyond that, as I mentioned, we plan to publish in April all of our findings, and the hope would be that they are part of the discussion, and FDA has been very forthcoming with inviting comment, and we hope that it will continue that way.
A reminder to you in the online viewing audience to log on and take the survey. Ralph, we'll give you the last word.
I think a couple of thoughts. I think it's important to remember that we're only really starting the process. Whatever the agency comes out with in the first round, the vast majority will require guidance documents or regulatory development. The devil here is in the detail, and there'll be a lot of opportunity for all stakeholders to comment and to address whatever the specific proposals are there. I think there's going to be a need to prioritize. If you look at the August document from FDA, and I think they realize it's not a criticism, that they can't do everything on that. It's just too big. With regard to IOM, I have no feel what they're going to say, and for some of the reasons that Josh mentioned, I can't predict how their recommendations will be received by stakeholders, by FDA, by Congress, or whomever. And my last thing just to think about is we're also starting the process for user fee reauthorization, and I think a lot of the 510K issues and implementation and changes may well get caught up in some of the debate and discussion over user fees.
Great. Well, thank you, Ralph. Well, that's all the time we have for today, so we'll have to bring this session to a close. I want to thank our panelists. And we wish also to convey our thanks to a number of organizations and media partners who are helping the InHealth funded team at Northwestern and Stanford to reach those who should be involved in their groundbreaking research project. Their assistance is greatly appreciated. If you or your company or your organization is also able to assist in this regard, please feel free to contact us, Drs. Linehan and Peach. We hope that you'll watch out for future events involving InHealth and its funded researchers, and log on to www.inhealth.org to find out more about us. And if you'd like to contact any of us individually, here's our contact information. So that'll do it for today. Thank you for attending, and we wish you the best of success in your current ventures.